All right, today we are down in Oregon on an iris field trip, and we are at Mid-America Gardens. Now, if you don't already know who they are, you have got to look them up. You are going to lose your mind if you're into iris. And even if you're not into iris, when you look them up, you're going to get into iris. So Thomas Johnson, the owner, is also the hybridizer, and pretty much all of the varieties that he offers are his own breeding work, and he's been breeding for 32 years. We were just talking to him up in the field, and he's out there doing his magical thing. So we might catch up with him later, but I also don't want to bug him because I know he's busy. But he let us out here into the back field. So these are all, there are seedlings out here. So these are like first and second year selections. There are named varieties up above. So we're going to go kind of poke around the field and see what we can learn. And this is a new source that you want to know about. They're not new in business, but they're probably new to you. And I found them last year and ordered a whole bunch of beauties. So back at home, mine are just starting to bloom, and now I get to see all of the possibilities. So yeah, let's go see what is going on here. Okay, so the first step in creating a new iris variety is to choose the two parents. And so you have what is called a seed parent or a pod parent, as they call them in the iris world. And then you have the pollen parent. And so typically the pollen parent is some kind of characteristic that you want to bring over: color, the kind of modeling, some kind of the streaking or striping. So I would collect the pollen from a flower out here in the field, and I would bring it over and put it onto the parent that I wanted to make the seed. And so wherever they have made the cross, you can see these little white tickets are blowing in the wind, and they're all over in the field. And this is precious because this information tells who the two different parents were, and all of this corresponds with the records that they have. So the seed pod, once it's successfully, like pollination has happened, the seed pod's going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually it's going to turn kind of a tan color. It'll start to crack open, and that means the seed is ripe. So the seeds are going to get collected, they're going to get dried, they're going to get cleaned, and then they're going to get sown in the autumn. And they need to go through that kind of freezing and thawing. So you want them to have nice cold weather through the winter, and then they're going to sprout that next spring. So let's go look at some of the little baby seedlings that were from crosses made last year, and you can see what they look like. So these are all little baby iris seedlings. So these are from crosses that Thomas made last spring. Then the seed pods formed, the seeds ripened, he sowed them in the fall or like late fall, early winter, and they started to sprout early this spring, and now they're big enough to transplant out into the field. So this whole bed behind me is a variety called Simply Said crossed with Romantic Lead. And so all of these little babies are from seeds that came out of that pod or a couple of pods. Now what's so cool is each one of them is going to be different from the others, but you're going to see that most of the seedlings look similar to each other. So they call them sister seedlings. So let's go see what those look like, and you can kind of start putting it together, because once I saw that, I'm like, I get it. This is amazing. So these guys, it's hard to believe. So those little tiny seedlings we just saw, this is what they'll look like the next year. So you can see the white flag marks where the new batch of crosses or the new kind of variety grouping. So these are all what are called sister seedlings. So you can see that if you kind of step back and look, and then we get in close, they are all different, but you can see they have sort of similar traits. So those are three different plants. So you can see they do look like sisters. So we've got this one and this one. So they, kind of there's, in this grouping, it seems like a purple and white combo. We've got kind of a bluey purple and a kind of more raspberry purple, but see how they're unique into themselves, but then they also are all kind of related. And then if you come down here, we move out of that variety, you see the new stake here in the ground. And then this one, we've got the combo of kind of oranges and this kind of maroon kind of purple. And you can see all of the flowers are some version of that. So some are really maroon, some are really orangey peach, and then some are a combo of both. And then you have some lighter ones, but you can kind of see how they flow together, and they look like they're related. So this is totally different than how it is for dahlias or zinnias. I wish they were like this, because this is way cooler. You can see that, like, oh gosh, I like that cross. What's coming out of that is really beautiful. So each one of these, okay, so that keeps going and going. And then we get down here, and here's a new one. And so you can see this group, we've got this kind of icy lavender, and then we've got lots of like really intense veining. So we've got that kind of purple white, and you can see that. And look, so we've got some where it's a more solid purple. We have some where they're really intensely veined. We've got some where they're very pale. And then down here, check this out. They have, it looks like someone just hit it with a paintbrush. Isn't that wild? Kind of speckled and spotted. So again, like related, but their own unique self. Okay, so it just started pouring rain, but we're gonna go for it. We gotta get this. Okay, so you can see in this long bed, you see all those orange flags? So those are all the selections that he's made. So in this group right here, these are all sister seedlings, and everywhere he's put an orange flag is the variety that he's selected. So this must be a winner, a keeper. Same with this one. We've got orange flags here. So when they go to dig these in the late summer, they're only going to dig the ones with the flags, and then those guys are going to then be moved along in the process, and all the rest of them are going to get dug out and composted. So people always say that when I'm roguing zinnias, like, how can you possibly throw them away? Or same with dahlias, and I'm like, it's easy. But now that I stand in someone else's breeding field and I see all of these that are going to get thrown away that are so incredibly beautiful, kind of makes my heart hurt. Like, it's, but you know what? It's part of the process. Okay, so where we had the orange flags, so those ones were the keepers. And so they get dug up and kept, and everything else gets junked. And now these are the varieties that were keepers, and this is probably, I don't know how many years he's been saving these, a couple it seems like, because there's multiple plants of them. But each year he's going to be continuing to grow them out, evaluate them, and then if they continue to make the cut, they are divided and multiplied. So you can see this is probably a couple of years, and now here's a new variety, and then here it starts a new variety, and here starts a new variety. So from the original cross all the way to it being something that we could order in our gardens if it makes the cut. So Thomas makes 1,000 crosses every single year. So think of, and all the seeds that come from those crosses, each pod could have 10 to 35 or 50 seeds in them. So he's growing thousands and thousands of seedlings. Only a handful make the cut, and then each year, less and less of them are kept. So by the time we get them, it's 7 to 10 years down the line. So a lot of people will say, why does a new introduction cost so much money? So a new variety, when it hits the market, why is it $75? Because it took him 10 years of his life to bring that variety into the world, and every year it was observed and cared for and divided and replanted and nurtured, and it stood the test of time. And so by the time we get it, it's definitely a winner. So in the first couple of years when a new variety hits the market, the price is the highest, and then you'll see it starting to come down because stock gets multiplied and the novelty is slightly worn off. But all of these guys are potentials that someday we might be able to order and grow in our gardens. Okay, so the last step of the journey is they get their names. So after they've passed all the tests and made it through all these years of selection, I'm only pointing over there because I'm like, and then it moves from that part to that part to that part, and finally it gets its name. And that means a variety is ready to go into the world. So it changes from that funny number letter combo to actually being named. So this is a variety called Blazing Orange, and it's a beautiful kind of soft tangerine with this pretty kind of maroony brown throat. Over here we've got Athena's Robe. I love this color combination, this strange gold with this kind of smoky lavender with the brown edging and then the water droplets on it. Like, are you kidding? But it's also kind of electric. We've got Courageous One. This is really pretty. Look at the coloring on that grapey throat with that closed up buttercream top. This one is Bodacious Beard, a beautiful gold. If you like the golds. This one I like a lot. This is Divine Enchantress. So I'm really drawn to the peaches and the blushes and the champagne. So I love the coloring on this. But what I find really nice about it is see how small the flowers are? They're much smaller than most irises. I think this would be ideal for flower arranging because sometimes trying to incorporate a very large flower into an arrangement can be kind of difficult. So you can see beyond here, all the white little flat tags, those are all named varieties, and on and on and on. So these are all varieties that are now available to us as home gardeners. So it rotates every year what is going to be available, but you have got to check out Mid-America. They have so many beautiful varieties and in the colors I've never seen before. the craziest combos. They're like fairy flowers. So if you're into irises, even if you're not into irises, I think you're gonna love their varieties. So they have a beautiful website which has great information. It talks about the parents, so you can learn more about hybridizing if you want to see what crosses were made to get a variety. Beautiful photography, great descriptions that just make you want to order the variety, so just be warned. But if you can spring for it, they have a really lovely, big, thick, glossy printed catalog that they still do. And I think it's like 15, 18 bucks. But if you're serious about iris and you're serious about ordering from them, I would say the investment is totally worth it, because you can just like curl up with a cup of tea or coffee or whatever by the fire in the winter and really think about what you want. So I hope this new source is one that's going to bring you a lot of joy and that you can find some new varieties from them. I am so excited to have discovered them last year. I have a whole row of varieties blooming back at home, just starting. So after I get lots of inspiration and take notes on all the new ones I want to order, we are going to go home and bask in the beauty of those. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour.